All right, we're finally back this weekend for our NFC version of the show that we did last weekend, which is a divisionals conversation. The idea being that we're going to break down divisions to a level where maybe some teams are going to be a little more in a better position to win. Some people may have some better opportunities for draft. Excuse me, not draft, but the players themselves. So it'll be the same kind of format as we did last weekend. We'll do, I think Ray's going to do our East, Brian's going to do our North, and then I'm going to do the South, and we're going to collectively do the West, largely because it's a massive division and has a bunch of good teams in there, and I think a couple of those are pretty decided. But we'll see. Maybe we'll be dead ass wrong this year. So without that, Ray, go ahead, man. What you got for us on our East?
First of all, I'm never wrong when it comes to football. I've never had a bad take ever. Just want to put that out there. All of my opinions in this offseason will be vindicated, I'm sure. With the exception of I almost jumped in on Jim's shit. Okay, never mind. Disregard that. We'll talk about that when we get to the South. Okay, so talking about NFC East, I hate this division. I really don't like the NFC.
All the
I don't have.
football.
Yeah, it's four.
I think it's normal to have an NFC and AFC team, and then your dream would be to just get both those teams into the Super Bowl. I can't stand the NFC as a whole. This division especially, I hate all of these teams. I hate the Commanders. I hate Philly. I hate the Giants. I can't stand the fucking Giants. And the Cowboys. It's not that I think people hate the Cowboys as a bandwagon, but we've talked about their ability on this show quite a bit, like its own brand of bad, because they have a lot of talent and they just play bad football with the talent that they have. But just to pick one, the Cowboys are going to be the top of this division for me right now. I don't think them losing Amari Cooper is like going to break them. They had a really dense wide receiver core.
Yeah.
If they can two receivers now, it's Cooper the and Gallup.
Is it? Take a look at that.
Yeah.
Okay.
They did get James Washington.
I don't want to mix them up. What is Gallup's first name? I'm thinking of Kenny Galladay.
I think it's Michael.
Okay.
Michael
Gallup. Okay. No disrespect to Gallup. I don't give a fuck. I don't think it's going to make a difference. They still have Schultz, don't they? They still have CD.
Yeah, they got. Oops, wrong one. Hold on. Yeah, CD Lamb. They just got James Washington. I think that was a free agent from the Steelers. I don't think we traded him. But yeah, Schultz is still there and all that.
The point is,
Gallup's back. My bad. I'm sorry. I don't know why.
So it's still just Amari Cooper, which Amari Cooper was good, but he was underutilized on that team. So if you remove an underutilized component of a team, that team is hurt by that because they should have utilized him this season, but they're not down a receiver that they leaned on last season.
No.
Because the ball got thrown around all over the place, most of the time to no one, but when it made its way to a receiver, it was all over the place, and not in a good way, like you would say with Buffalo. Dak is still, even with his rushing production going down, he's still an amazing quarterback. He's got a great arm, tons of yardage. He's got all that going for him. You can play him consistently, I think, because of how much he passes. He just makes bad calls, but those bad calls aren't so bad. It's kind of like how much have the other three grown as he's like detracted, right? And I don't think those two have met quite yet. Dallas's regression isn't so bad that these other teams' small moves have surpassed that yet. He needs to stop trying to throw 30-yard bombs, when it's 3rd and 2, but we're still going to see him take the top seed. We're still going to see him in the playoffs to go, throw the game away there, but he's still going to be the top team in this division. And the only team that I could say might come back, like make a difference in that, is if Jalen Hurts can fix Philly's jumbled offense, because they did get a lot of They had a lot of big moves this year. If Jalen Hurts' throwing accuracy and like rushing production, not because he's good, he's a good rusher. The production just isn't there. Like those yards get pissed away because they have turnovers, right? So if we can see those turnovers go down and we can see them actually score when they make stupid plays, I mean, everyone thinks that AJ Brown and Devonta Smith with Jalen are just going to be this amazing fucking, combination. I don't have any faith in it, but they are the only team, in my opinion, in this division that has a chance. I think that the Giants picked up Dable. I think he's going to go there and make a bunch of shitty calls on the on the offense. They're going to play safe football, and they're going to stay out of the playoffs. And even if they make it to the playoffs, they're not going anywhere further. It'll be on a wild card. I don't think that the moves that the Giants made this year did anything to even come close to repairing the issue they have. Like when you're still leaning on, and this goes for Philly too, when you're leaning on a battered running back as your bell cow, you're not going to have a good season. Saquon Barkley and Miles Sanders have been beat to shit the last 3 seasons because they're the only worthwhile players on those teams. That they're not good. I would not start either of those dudes because how injury prone they are. I'm not exactly sure what Miles Sanders' problem is.
It's more of a competitive backfield because they still have to go through so they got like a big rookie with a ton of speed last year, and you saw him come in a fair amount, but you saw Boston Scott do a lot more work. And to me, it's like one of those things where he was injured, kind of. It's also well known that Philadelphia's coaching staff does not care for him. It's a well documented thing that Philadelphia just anytime it has anything to do with an offensive conversation, no one's excited about Miles Sanders, including the guys who coach the fucking team.
That's good.
So when it happens, you could have perfectly healthy seasons, or I think he had like a ankle or a knee injury. I can't remember exactly last year, but it kept him out for 4 to 6 games, and then he was very tentative after that. Yeah. In fact, I ended up cutting him after week 5 or 6, and he stayed on our market all the way until just shy of playoffs.
Yeah, I don't think anybody wanted him.
No.
Yeah.
So I think he made it onto Gill's team, and then he cut him again anyway. So, yeah.
I think a big part of that is not necessarily. I would move on from him in general, just because I think you'd remove him from the situation, focus on your other backs, and better them to progress your football team, rather than sitting on spoiled milk, basically. Because once you get again, that comes down to bettering your team. Once you get your bell cow moving, you'd be able to run that football. Now Hurts isn't trying to make plays, play after play after play. We're able to get down on 3rd and 2 or so and run that football.
Right. It's the same. Buffalo had the same issue. I believe they're still going to have the same issue this year, where their running back is their best, or their quarterback is their best running back. The difference is that Buffalo has so many other things going well for them that you can and Josh Allen is such an elite athlete that he can do both. Jalen Hurts' passing game, not only of his own fault, is not good enough for him to rush more than you can't have him be the top passing and rushing stats. That he's going to fall apart. It's just not there. Now, is it going to show up now that he's got 2 really good receivers for him? Maybe. I don't know. I don't know if his O-line's any better. I'm never going to forget. I think it was Philly. Who were they playing? I think it was Philly and the Bears, and Carson Wentz was still there. And they snapped that fucking ball over his fucking head. Who is paying this clown to play football? And I know, you're not in the NFL, you don't know. Listen, bro, what is going on that you're snapping it 8 feet over your quarterback's head? If that level of play is still there on their O-line, he's going to have a rough time. But Washington and the Giants just didn't make any moves in the offseason that lead me to believe that they're going to be any better. Kenny Golladay gets his dick slobbed on as a receiver
every offseason.
Unknown reason. He's never put up the production that makes me give a single fuck about him. Nope. I would never consider picking him up.
I think people like him because
my brother told me to draft him. He was like, I think this is a guy you're really going to like. And I looked at him. I'm like, I never started this dude one time. Worthless.
I think he didn't do too bad in Detroit. I kind of liked him.
He had glory days in Detroit.
Yeah, but once he moved to New York, that's a wrap.
Yeah.
So
that I don't mean to cut you off, Jim, but okay. So Danny Dimes is not the quarterback to throw to Kenny Golladay. So until that is no longer the situation,
it's definitely Golladay. Danny Dimes is perfect.
Oh,
he's perfect.
I'm not going to disagree with you. I think Danny Dimes is an adequate quarterback. I think that he's not anywhere near Matthew Stafford's level. So obviously there's going to be issues. Obviously Galladay's production value is going to go down. So with that, Washington has Carson Wentz. So obviously they're going to be the bottom. New York, I have no trust in their head coach. I do not like Dable. I think that a lot of Buffalo fans, if anyone listens to this fucking show and then they're a Buffalo fan, they're cursing my name right now because a lot of people give him credit for developing Josh Allen, and I think that is ridiculous. Josh Allen is the way he is because of Ken Dorsey and Sean McDermott and because of his teammates and because that's just who Josh Allen is. Not because of a offensive play caller who would just play safe football. Not interested in it. Go to New York, play like it's 2001, and stay third in your division. I'd like to see Philly do well just because I like a lot of the players on that team. So 1, Dallas, 2, Philly. Jim, do you remember what you were going to say before I cut you off?
No, I was just going to say on the Philly thing when you were talking about it with the O-line stuff, the only thing else that's been settled this year that I like a lot better than when they started like the first 8 games last year is there's no more mix-up between Goddard and Ertz. That was a hard part about fantasy. Right. It's like both tight ends are very good, but they split the ball so evenly, and the quarterback wasn't good enough at throwing to make like both of them okay to play. I think with it just having Goddard, who's young, healthy, big, he's got a lot of talent, a lot of speed and a lot of size. Very Zach Ertz-esque, very much so. I still don't trust the throw. I mean that's why honestly, like I think Jalen Hurts is probably the weakest passer in that division. As much as it pains me to say that. I think by the numbers, when he lets that ball go, and I'm talking about a Carson Wentz that had like barely any receivers in Indy, but at least knew it was going to get in the vicinity of Michael Pittman, maybe, right? But like I've seen Hurts airmail at 25 yards over top of a little 15-yard, play action boot to a tight end. Like there's no fucking way that play was ever going to be made. And then up until like I don't trust that he's not going to run for his own life. Don't get me wrong. If I were him, I'd be running for my life as well because that line's falling apart all the time, right? The opportunities when it was, and it's hard because to me, it's what it reminds me of. It reminds me of Baker Mayfield. He'll run around, scramble, make a couple of really great plays, and then fucking suck at passing more often than not, right? That's how I equate him to his throwing ability. Is like, I'm running around, scramble, and he'll get that 8-yard touchdown every now and then, right? Or a big play or a big first down. But there's going to be more interceptions than you care for. There's going to be more sacks than you care for. Although it's a lot harder to sack Hurts than it is Mayfield.
I like that comparison between them two. Yeah. I could see that.
So that's how I see the arm talent is similar to that. Now, if the line is much better, I would say this: if the line is much better and Hurts doesn't improve dramatically in the passing, I would say he loses that job.
No, him and Tua, and now Tua's other side of the NFL. They're both on their make or break season.
Yes, very much so. So that's why, like, I would love to see Philly in second place, but I'm going to go with the Commanders, and the reason I say that is because the coaching staff is much better.
That's your number
Rivera,
2?
Yeah, that's my number 2.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
Yeah, the coaching staff really breaks it here. It's been Philly's had talent for a while now, for past couple of years, but can't seem to put it together. Ron Rivera's been in the NFL a long time. In his first season with the Commanders, or it was the Washington football team then, but the 7-10 is not god awful. It's not a playoff team, but when you talk about what the Redskins and then were before that, it was like a 4-win season team, right? So I think the slow, steady pace, and then they had the Heineke thing in the playoffs and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Tom Brady.
I love that.
It was crazy, right? It's exciting football. They also signed McLaurin to the biggest receiving contract in the NFL, right? So, Scary Terry gets
Scary Terry got that. I got that money. I don't know about that one though.
I think that's silly.
It's
I think that was a mistake.
It's probably higher than what I would have paid, but maybe. But if I had more faith. Yeah, maybe if I had more faith in a quarterback that could throw the ball to him down the field, I might pay that, which they obviously are.
I think Scary Terry's a good person to ride the bench for you, and depending on the matchup of that week.
I know. Very much so. What's crazy is like you'll play the matchup and he'll get a corner, like he'll get Jalen Ramsey one weekend and do like 40 points. And then he'll get some random fucko third string from the Texans and get up 7 points. You know what I mean? It's hard to
like be lost in the sauce. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And that's why like if you could sort the quarterback situation out there, Commanders are actually I think a better team than Philly is.
I like Taylor Heineke a lot. I like Taylor Heineke a lot for how bad he is, relative to the rest of the quarterbacks in the league.
Yeah.
He's not that bad. I mean, but when you're talking about, you compare him to Josh Allen, he's dog shit. But it's like that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about relative to starting quarterbacks. He's not that that bad. But
Giants still in the blasphemy.
All-timer. Yeah. That's
a given. I don't know how anybody's going to argue with me on that one.
Because I think Carson Wentz is worse than Danny Dimes, but that's a personal thing. That has nothing to do with statistics. Also, I just don't have faith in the Giants' offense at all. I've seen Washington, as bad as they are, play amazing.
Yes.
With Taylor Heineke as QB.
There are times when that defense was like, I don't think it was last year, I think it was the year before last, that Washington's defense was a premier defense. You could play them weekly almost. And then last year was way different because they took 2 crucial injuries on their defensive line.
But they still smacked the Dallas Cowboys' cock.
They did.
Right in the air.
They did.
Divisional beatdown.
Chase Young's back with the team after his ACL tear.
Yeah, that's right. Chase Young's injury was devastating last year. I remember that game. That whole game turned after that injury.
Took the whole wind out of their sails. They had no chance after that. Okay.
I think they're not bad. I think at the end of the day, you could still flip a coin and be like, who sucks the least?
I think Washington, even with Wentz.
I will say this, Ray. The only reason I have Philly beneath the Commanders, first of all, I'm talking about a game of like one difference wins, right? One game. I'm not talking 5 wins ahead of each other. I'm talking like both are going to be 8-8 fucking ugly ass wins, right? Is the youth in Philly. And that's the issue I have with it, is because there's a bunch of youth on that defense that's going to have to learn hard fucking lessons. And if they don't learn them in time and they play the Commanders where like there's not a ton of changes for the Commanders. Carson Wentz is a big change, yes, but it's not a ton of changes on the defense that really wasn't a poor defense up until Chase Young got injured, right? But I think the defense for the Commanders is better than the Eagles based on the experience and veterans that are stepping into the game, as opposed to like 4 fucking rookies starting on your defense.
That's true. I mean?
That's rough. Yeah.
If I'm wrong about Carson Wentz, which I'm not, then they would move to 2 for me over Philly.
Which is why I still say, like, to me, they're almost the same team because I haven't seen the faith in Carson Wentz restored yet. So I would agree there. All right. Well, hey, we got our NFC East adjusted and analyzed, I think. I think everybody's pretty on the same page there.
Yeah, I don't know.
So, Brian, why don't you go and take us over to the NFC North this week and see what we got going on?
North, Well, I don't think there's any doubt in anybody's mind that the Green Bay Packers sit at number 1. With that being said, when they get to the playoffs, they're definitely not number 1. Aaron Rodgers is going to get in there per usual. I don't know if it's Aaron Rodgers' fault. I don't know if it's just they just can't seem to figure it out. They just can't figure out. As soon as the playoffs hit and they either have number 1 or just sitting in that second slot, they just lost in the sauce, forget how to play.
Love it. I'm right every year.
I think last season was what? They played the 49ers,
and
it was just a bunch of field goals and snow. And they
Lambeau Field.
In Lambeau Field. How do you have home field advantage where you play in snow? Horrible games. And
Jimmy G comes in and is like, no, I got
and Jimmy G was just like, don't get me wrong, it wasn't a great game.
He played terrible.
Terrible. Horrible game. and still walked away with the win to advance.
Yeah.
Here's why. Brock talked about this. I don't remember when, how many weeks ago it was, but we were talking about how Green Bay fills their slots, right? Where they have like 2 really good running backs, and now they don't have that number 1 receiver. Well, number 2, because Cooper Kupp was number 1 last year.
Sure.
So they have Rodgers, they have a bunch of, nobodies, and then they have people that have been on the team for a while. So just exactly as what Brock said, they take some nobody, he rocks out for a game, and then someone else is in that slot the next week because they just rotate the nobodies that they have, right?
That's fair. Yeah,
can't do that in the playoffs because who are you playing in the playoffs? You're playing a team that is elite. You're playing a team to beat everybody else in their division.
Unless you have Eli Apple, in which case you're just going to win. Oh, my God. A whole playoffs. Sorry.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, Eli Apple is a whole other thing. He's
so fucking frustrating.
I'm not going to get into that right now.
That's an episode on its own.
Well, he was with the Giants. We could shit talk the past 2 years.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
We'll move on from that. But since he is kind of an example of a team that wasn't necessarily elite. They had an elite offense, but they had other issues. They had line and defense issues. But they were AFC, so Green Bay didn't play them, right? They played So they had the bye, right? Because they were number 1 for NFC.
Yes.
And they lost to the Niners for the first game of the
playoffs.
They
beat one team to get there. Yeah. So they would only they play the division. Who the fuck did they play in division?
I can't think.
Cardinals, right? This is the Cardinals?
No, the Cardinals played the Rams.
I don't think the Cardinals are even
probably the Eagles. It was the Eagles. It was the Eagles. My bad. It was the Eagles. Yeah, because the Eagles squeaked in, and then the Packers served them fucking.
The Eagles played Tampa.
Did they really? Oh, I fucking forget Tampa's in here.
I don't have last year.
So it's bye week, divisional week, and then it's the championship.
Yeah.
So they were on a bye. They lost the divisional game against the Niners.
Yeah, they lost. Yes, it was divisional.
Because the 49ers went and played.
Right, y'all fucking making me think I don't know.
I keep thinking, you know why? Because I give them shit every year for the NFC Championship game loss.
Right,
because they didn't even. That's when it like.
They didn't make it this year because
they didn't make it.
They got number 1 seed in the NFC. Number 1, they should not have, in my opinion, it should have been the Rams, but that's besides the point. Different division. They got the number 1 seed. They got their bye. They went to their divisional game, and they got their asses handed to them by the 49ers, who were like 6th overall in the NFC.
Yeah.
Why? Because the Niners fucking lineup was set. They didn't have a bunch of nobodies that they were rotating in and out. Now, it was ugly fucking shit football, but you can't throw nobodies against Deebo Samuel. He's going to walk all over you.
Yeah.
It's just not.
That's
there's
fair.
too much talent. When you go to the playoffs, you're playing teams that have honed their starting positions over 18 games, 17 games with bye week. It's not going to – this plug-and-play shit that you've been doing all season isn't going to fly. It's just not going to work because it's one and done. That's exactly why they go to the playoffs and lose, because they don't have a playoff offense. They don't have a playoff lineup.
To add to that too, Ray, my other issue with the Packers is this gets escaped constantly or like looked over all the time. To me, in a lot of seasons, the Packers are in the worst fucking division. Look at their competition.
Mm-hmm.
The Vikings, Bears, and Lions.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like, we give the Cowboys a shit a bunch of time because all those teams are very middle of the pack sometimes.
Yeah.
But, like, the Packers get away with murder every year.
Yeah.
They just don't have to lose to 3 of the poorer teams in the NFL, and they're in the playoffs. And I can't stand that shit.
Record-wise, you were right. But we've said it before. Detroit is not a bad team. They're just a losing team. They lost almost every game by a field goal last year.
It's the same as the Vikings.
Yeah, absolutely. If you only lose by a field goal, you are a bad team, but the team that beat you isn't that much better. All of those teams that they only won by a field goal by Detroit, none of those teams can talk shit on Detroit. You almost got your ass handed to you by the worst team by record in the NFL. They almost beat you, and it happened every week. That rarely did they get blown out. I mean, granted, they would go and play a team like the fucking Bears and still lose.
Yeah.
But then they would go and play Minnesota and the Saints, and they would still only lose by
Ravens.
Baltimore. They would only lose by a field goal. Tucker's the only reason the Ravens didn't fucking they didn't beat the Ravens. Ruined the record. He had to break an NFL record to not lose to Detroit. Detroit is not a bad team. I reject anybody that says they're bad. They have a losing – something is broken there, but they're not a bad team. They're just a losing team. Minnesota is not a bad team. They have a shit quarterback that doesn't know how to fucking close the deal. They also kind of have a shitty defense because Kirk Cousins and Jazzy Jeff will get into shootouts, put up 30 points, and they'll still lose games. I still blame Kirk Cousins because he has ugly fucking passes that would win every game if he could just get the fucking ball to his receivers. But it's kind of unfair to not point out that the defense is letting the enemy. Like, if I score 50 points and you let them score 51, the defense lost us that game. To his credit, as much as I dislike Kirk Cousins.
Brian's got his piece to say about Minnesota.
So which leads me to my next point. Detroit's number 2.
Wow.
Because of the fact of, if you can come so close to beating all these different teams, granted, don't get me wrong, how you said you could go play the Bears and just forget how to play football. But then you could go back and play like Minnesota and the Ravens or so and just either squeak by or miss it. I think they had a really good draft this year. I would definitely look into, I'm not sure exactly who is their damn team anymore.
Hutchinson is their big name.
Yeah. Okay, but let's see, we got Golf Swift. St. Brown became a really big part of that offense.
Huge receiver.
I would definitely look into him, picking him up in the later rounds of your fantasy draft.
He'll be there too.
Yeah,
he's a flex for sure.
Yeah, because he'll take a risk to do, but I would do it too.
Even if they sit on your bench because of the matchup that week against Detroit, I think that's something solid that you can easily look into. But I think they sit at number 2 for me because of the fact of they're so close of being a winning team. And I think after this year, they did some good. They got more talent coming in. Golf's there for a second year. I think that's more chemistry made. I think that's definitely something that could make a winning recipe. And then, of course, honestly, at this point, the Vikings and the Bears, you could flip a coin. I don't even think the Bears did anything this year. I don't even know if they had a draft pick this year. I haven't heard much about them.
It was small potatoes comparatively.
Yeah, like
I don't know what they're doing over there.
Justin Fields I think he's still quarterback Bears, right? Let me take a look at that.
Yeah,
Justin Fields
for this week.
Freaking air, right? I think they do have a solid. They got offensive potential. I think that's where it comes into, again, that chemistry where they kind of need to work together. But at the same time, who is your defense? You can.
Was last year Monte Brown's rookie year?
It was.
Yes,
okay.
It was.
I'm just looking at these players and I'm wondering how did someone like Matthew Stafford struggle with this team? But it's because all these guys, they're new.
Weren't there.
Monte Brown, he didn't play. I think he had Swift for a year in 2020. If you
yes, roughly.
Never mind. So
he had Hawkinson for one season, and
that's
then
one tight end though.
ACL,
what is he going to do?
Yeah,
what
he was injured too.
Going to do?
No.
It's not Madden. I mean, I rely on Hawkinson when I play Madden, but it's not.
Here's why, Brian. I'm going to disagree on the Bears and Vikings comparison because you lose Allen Robinson, and to me, that's a massive loss. For
more
Chicago.
than that. It's so much more than that.
I'll let you finish, but I got a rebuttal.
Well, one, I don't trust Mooney. I've seen Mooney go up and down the field and drop balls. He reminds me exactly of Hollywood Brown. He's Hollywood Brown in Chicago. That's what he is. Don't get me wrong. He's a Tulane boy, and my brother's a Tulane law graduate. Like, I know Tulane well. I know where it is. I've been there a couple of times as well. I don't like that they were just like, yeah, you know what? We really don't need this veteran, big-ass receiver that's been massive for us for the past, 5-6 seasons, right? But to add to that, I also don't care because they don't have any of the fucking tight ends they need to block for Fields to go and make those plays, right? So, like, even if you say that the line stays the same, let's call it a C+ line, whatever.
Okay.
The lack of a dominant tight end or a tight end, like a high draft value tight end, is the biggest deal for him because that's going to be his rescue route, and that's what a tight end is for a lot of quarterbacks, is a rescue route. It's a guy that's like, hey, I think of him the same way that he thinks of me. I know that he's been holding it too long. I should start running back towards him. That's chemistry with a tight end that knows what they're doing. Mm-hmm. And that's why you see dudes like Andrews. Andrews is a big one. Andrews knows that Jackson wants to scramble. He wants to get out. So he's just going to follow him on the, let me go this side of the field. Oh, let me go this side.
Just kind of match him. So, like,
that's an elite tight end mindset. And also, fair. Mark Andrews can do a nice big block or a nice little chip block to give him that time to throw that ball. Mm-hmm. But Chicago has no one for that. Jimmy Graham, I think, was there last year. Like, sorry, man, rest in peace. Your Super Bowl season was your deal, and it was awesome, and it was great, but it's not been the same.
You didn't see a lot of production from him, and I
wouldn't have played him once.
His size and athleticism, he should have been an amazing tight end.
Should have been like one of the top dudes. He should be up there with Gronk.
Never showed. It never presented itself. I think there's so much more to what you're saying, though. Like, to put the Bears are bottom by a year. Like, they're not even in the same season as the rest of these dudes are competing. As much as we shit on Kirk Cousins, the rest of Minnesota is a lot better. Their defense needs work, though. But like Jazzy Jeff alone is better than any receiver. Like, you could combine the receiver core of Chicago.
He's the best player in that division. I would say Jazzy Jeff's the best player in that division.
I can buy that.
And then Adam
Thielen.
I wanted to call him Adam Levine.
He's great. He's great.
He's solid.
It's hard to be overshadowed by Jefferson.
Which is more than you can say for a receiver in any other team in that division. So those two alone.
When it comes to like a fantasy,
and Dalvin Cook. Dalvin Cook, James Madison. I mean, you have amazing players on that offense. You have nobody in Chicago.
Yeah, until Cook gets hurt again.
And then James Madison comes in and 100% fills the slot. Shits the bucket. He put up like 40 fucking points. Every time. When Cook is out, James Madison he never had a bad game when Cook was Cook was out.
Because Madison
was good.
Cook, and then I was like, give Madison nothing. They were like, fuck it. We're going to throw it 100 times this game.
That day.
Yeah, I'll check, but I'm calling bullshit right now.
But it was the only time he shit. Okay, it was the only time that year.
Yeah, he's a good second back. I like him, but he did me wrong. I was hurt.
He didn't do you wrong. He is not the play caller. He is not the reason that he didn't get yards. They weren't running the ball then.
No, Jazzy Jeff put up like 50 points that day. I was like, sorry, dog. I'm so sorry, dog.
When Madison gets the opportunity to leave, he will be offered a lot of money, and he will leave. He's an amazing
Tony Pollard.
He's choking behind Cook. Yes.
So here's my question to y'all for like a fantasy point between Adam Thielen and the old Jazzy Jeff. I've noticed it's either one or the other sometimes.
For what?
It is. No, he's right.
Yeah, so
here's my notice that I've picked up on. Now, 2 years ago, this was the golden rule. All right, if Jefferson shined this week, next week is Thielen's weekend. You might as well not even play Jefferson. And it really was that severe. Last year, that was not the case. Last year, even when Thielen was healthy, it was a 70-30 in favor of Jefferson easily. I'm pretty sure it's only going to go up. It's the same as like Devontae Adams, right? When Devontae first got to Green Bay, he was always like going to be that super talented dude just on size and speed alone. But the addition of him keep coming back because you had dudes like Randall Cobb, Alex Lazard, dudes that were slowly stealing production, but Devontae Adams would still at least 70-30, 80-20 split when it came to points. I'm talking about fantasy points in this ratio, not playing time. And so that's why, like, I want to say Thielen is a viable candidate. Gil had Thielen last year, and we played each other like 3 or 4 times. Thielen fell apart every time that we played, but there were definitely weekends where Thielen put up, 2-3 touchdowns in a game because he only got 4 looks from the 20-yard line. You know what I'm saying? That elite downfield speed is not Thielen's forte anymore. That's Jefferson's. So that if he can't get open in the second gunner or that slot receiver, he's just not going to have a good week. Which happened a good amount.
Too often.
It's just,
he's too fast. He's got too good hands. Kirk Cousins will yeet it to Jefferson under double coverage. It does not matter. He has made it very clear he has far more faith in Jefferson's hands.
That's fair.
So Minnesota's my 2, but I agree with Green Bay being number 1 barely. If Minnesota had a quarterback that would get the ball to his receivers more, or if they had a defense that would stop letting teams score so much on them, they would be number 1 and it wouldn't be close. Yeah, no.
And in fact, like there's still talk between Minnesota and I think Seattle are still in talks for Jimmy G. So and Tampa also is trying to make a bid for Jimmy G. I guess because eventually Brady retires. I don't know what. But it won't be this year, you know.
At this point,
well, if your point is to bring him in a year in advance or whatever, but that'd be the most expensive backup ever. So for me, it goes Green Bay, Minnesota, Detroit, Chicago. I think Detroit will improve, but I think their improvement is that they beat Chicago out this year.
Okay.
Year 2 is pretty progressive to me. If they were number 2, I would say that coach will live and die as a Lions head coach. They're never going to get rid of the guy because he just would have been the first good thing.
I don't remember his name, but all I remember he said
Dan
something
Campbell.
About just biting some knees off or something like that.
Yep.
I was like, oh, this guy's great.
He also cried like a couple times when interviews when they were losing a bunch of games, and I was like, all right, calm the fuck down, man. All right. But
he's into like that game straight to a field goal, and you tell me how emotional you are.
That's true, right? Okay, so I think we wrapped up the North fair enough. So I guess I'll head into our NFC South, and I'm actually going to try and make quick work of this one because to me there really isn't that much debate, and our final division has a ton of debate. For me, every year before the season starts, since Tom Brady's been in Tampa, I think that they're going to be your number one. And it's not even going to be close. I think you're going to see another, like you have 13 wins with Tampa that last year. Saints had 9 and they're in second place. I think that the gap will still remain that wide. I think the Saints qualify for the playoffs this year and the little wild card section. If Jameis Winston can stay healthy, I do think he can take them to the playoffs. I'm not talking about Super Bowls. I don't know about that because that would have to see him play in such a big game before we had that type of info. But I know he's capable of bringing them at least to a wild card for sure. Even with Jameson only doing 7 games, and he was 5-2. His TD 13 touchdowns, 4 interceptions in that 7-game split, which is phenomenal. He also ran for 3 touchdowns, which is phenomenal, right? That production is amazing. And bear in mind, no Mike Thomas, no tight end really worth keeping on any fantasy roster whatsoever.
Taysom Hill's taking that tight end spot.
Yeah. Oh man, if Taysom Hill's that tight end, he's my dark horse pick. We're going to talk about this later in the show. I have this whole thing.
Adam Truman, I don't know how to say the last name. Yeah, is the starter right now.
It's a blocker. He does a great job at blocking. That is not a big time receiving tight end, but and that's what the Saints. Yeah, and the Saints are big on this. So head coach Dennis Allen in his first season as head coach, the dude's been in New Orleans like 10 years, man. He's been there a long fucking time. He's been there a long time as Deco. He was there with Rob Ryan as an assistant, right? And Rob Ryan left, and then he's off doing whatever. Now he was Deco for a while. Did a great job as a defensive coordinator for the Saints, who historically have been one of the worst. And he made them at least a top 7 and sometimes a top 5 by the time the season was over with. They always start rough. They always look gross when they first start the first 3-4 games. It's hard to tell what the Saints are going to do. I think the order, though, so I finished this and we'll hash it back, goes Tampa, New Orleans, Carolina, Atlanta. Atlanta had 7 wins. I think they probably flip-flop with the Panthers. I say this, but there will be a ton of debate with Carolina as we get closer to the draft time. All I want, and this is from a fantasy perspective, if Mayfield or Darnold, don't give a fuck who, can get the ball to DJ Moore and McCaffrey, this team can win some ball games. The defense is very B- C plushes. It's not going to be like a Patriots or a Steelers with like all the sack records or a bunch of turnovers. They're not going to do that. And they gave up a lot of really big plays last year that are like, what the fuck was that? Mm-hmm. I think the first 5 games you could start the Panthers defense, they were number 1 in the NFL.
Oh,
and they finished way down the list, man. It was skyrocketed down. DJ Moore is a fantastic player and a fantastic receiver. I can't stand Robbie Anderson. I will never play Robbie Anderson.
I don't
even suggest anyone draft that, right? Yeah. Unless you're playing like a 20-league team and something's crazy deep, something stupid. So
pick up
DJ
the
Moore,
top ranked receiver for the week and put them in. It'll never be Robbie.
It'll never be Robbie. No.
I would just go to the free agency. Who's projected the highest? Yeah, you're going in.
Denver receiver. Come on over. Yeah. I don't even know who you are. Come on. Right. But that's how I look at a lot of this is so evident that I'm not sure that Carolina sticks with this warpath anymore after the season. If McCaffrey's not in, they lose. It's very straightforward. They cannot win consistently without their star running back. And now it's 2 seasons in a row that like have been so off-putting that he fell out of the top 10 draft picks easily this past draft season. People were like, yeah, he's healthy. No one trusted him. No one trusted him.
I mentioned that last season.
Mm-hmm.
I was like,
Brian passed on
first round pick. I will absolutely not.
Yeah. And let me ask you this. Would you do it this year?
No. Oh, God, no.
No, right? No, right?
No, he's like third round maybe for me now.
Yeah, he'll fall significantly more for me too, and that's just because like it's the system, right? That's the issue now. I know McCaffrey's talented. I've been knowing that. Same as Saquon and a couple. They've always had talent.
Talented. Now he's a broken
that
boy.
speed is still there. That speed is still there.
I still think he has a lot to give. I think he needs help on the offensive line.
Who? What do you mean he still has a lot to give? He's broken. When he puts out the effort, he's out for 6 games.
Well,
because
I can't argue this.
When he puts in the effort to get the production that you think he has, he breaks himself.
Yeah.
Because he has no time to heal.
That's
now,
the other
if he
part
could take time to get better, maybe.
Okay, so then on
Carolina?
that, on that, Ray,
Hubbard,
would you play? Chuba Hubbard. So is that a player? Hubbard. Right, you like Hubbard, right? Because he does a really good job catching passes to me, and I like that the most. Mm-hmm. I know Carolina will never be a north-south running football team. That is not the way their coaches are. That is not the way they're designed. And if they are, they're kind of fucked because it's just so bad. Mike Davis imploded on that team, and it was just – and that's because Mike Davis plays Carolina football. It's the same thing I said when he was in Atlanta. Cordero Patterson's not necessarily a much better athlete. It's that Mike Davis is a pass-catching scat back outside edge rusher. Not, I need 3 yards and I've got to go forward.
Which is what they tried to use him. Yeah, they tried to use him that way, and then they played Cordell Patterson on the outside.
Who's just a giant, and it's hard for him not to fall over for 3 yards, right? So and he's got great hands too. Like I'm not gonna trash talk Cordero. I'm gonna get to the Falcons in just a second. I think that Chuba Hubbard is still absolutely relevant for fantasy. And I think the moment that McCaffrey, should he have another injury, I think he's a top 10 play every single week he's out there.
Sure.
And that's for a dude that's like, he was really good at Oklahoma State, but his second season to me is always second, third, fourth season for me is the premium running back time zone for me. They're healthy enough, they're fast enough, and they've got great hands. They haven't had big injuries or long injury stays. That 3-4 year stand is perfect to me. Chuba Hubbard's about to hit his second. I like where he's at. In a lot of ways.
Chuba Hubbard, this be his second year?
This will be his second year. Yeah, he was a rookie.
Okay, I'm looking at his stats. I'm like, but I got Honestly,
it's not sexy. No, it's not sexy.
For a second year.
For not that many starts because it was wonky. We didn't know who was going to start there. Right?
Oh, yeah. If McCaffrey easily goes out and he's still sitting on the free agency, I think that's definitely a good pickup there.
Another big change for Carolina, too, is that their OCO is no longer Joe Brady. Joe Brady was the guy from LSU, won the title with Burrow. Went to Carolina, just did not find success. So they fired him this offseason. New offensive coordinator. We'll see where that goes. Maybe a more traditional NFL offense that might help them. And then we'll finish last with Atlanta. And to me, like Atlanta's not even on the same page as these other guys right now. To me, it's the same as with Chicago. Atlanta, unless they've got that gym rookie, which, they've drafted Ritter out of Cincy, who has a lot of potential talent. Yeah. His numbers are hard to read because he comes from a shit-ass school that just didn't play great numbers football because he's trying to make play every down. He reminds me of like dudes that like, oh, I'm going to throw it 80 yards because we have to score this touchdown. Not anymore, right? Now it's about consistency and driving offenses up and down the field. I think that favors Ritter a lot. I don't trust Mariota. Don't care. There's no reason you sit behind Derek Carr for a couple of seasons and say, this dude's a starting quarterback. Fucking how, man? Yeah. You just had a starting quarterback as your second quarterback for years because it was cost efficient.
Yeah.
That's not accurate. Come on now. I don't think he'll have the job the whole year. I think Ritter steps in. And then Atlanta has a big problem in the fact that Ridley's not out there for Pitts. You would legit have one pass-catching threat, and that's Pitts. Cordero Patterson's there. Excuse me. Cordero's there, but that's more of a running back role anyway.
Still, he's
right.
He's trying to be. He's listed as a running back.
He can do whatever. He's a Jackson Knight.
Yeah, sure.
He literally played tight end last season.
Yeah.
He can do
whatever.
Yeah. I said that. I don't remember what episode it was on. I don't remember what position we were talking about. But someone I think it might have been the tight end episode. Someone was talking about Pitts. I think it was Brock.
Yeah.
And I said, Pitts is not, or Ridley was not the person dictating Pitts' production. It's Patterson. Patterson dictates whether or not Pitts is going to be reliable. That's still true. He's their best player, in my opinion. It's not. I'm not crazy about Pitts as a tight end. Cordell Patterson just did everything literally last season.
Yeah.
So, but he's, like you said, he's really their only good player. They don't.
I think the Falcons are kind of broken right now, and I think right now they're edging on the worst defense in the NFL, not one of the worst. I think they could fall even lower. They didn't improve anything. They didn't do a whole lot of changes. A lot of their stuff was in the draft, which, don't get me wrong, I love the draft. To me, it's the source of new players that are going to do great things. Sometimes it's not. Sometimes it's a total gamble and it doesn't pay off. And I would say most of the time it's a gamble. Right. And you can't just draft a couple of like tight ends and quarterbacks. Be like, all right, we're good. You've changed nothing on defense.
There was no quarterbacks this season. There was lots of teams that needed quarterbacks this season, and not that many teams were
next
to get
year.
A quarterback
It's going to be a huge
start.
Quarterback season.
I think Kenny Pickett and Malik Williams in Tennessee.
No, fucking the Liberty guy, Liberty quarterback.
I keep forgetting his name. Anyway,
yeah,
back up to Tannehill. I think those are the only two that might find a starting position this year. With the exception of Ritter. I don't know why they paid Mariota to come play in Atlanta. What are you doing?
I don't get it.
That's just as dumb as Indy getting Matt Ryan. That's silly.
Yeah,
Mariota sucks.
I don't get it.
Why would you ever want him? Start a rookie. Get him some fucking playtime experience. You're going to win just as many games. You're certainly going to get as far in the playoffs. I don't know.
I think it's a massive rebuild year for them. And you know how like every team's like, oh, we're not rebuilding. Dog. That is a rebuilding roster. You may not be on the Jets. Yes. You may not be like the Jets level of rebuilding where it's every fucking year, right?
Yeah.
But like if that's not a rebuild and that's what this is the key thing, because that rebuild thing definitely applies to Atlanta, and Carolina should have done that. Carolina should have said, we need to rebuild. The structure's not working. And instead they threw in Baker Mayfield, like, this will sort it all out.
Well,
I'm sure.
Baker Mayfield is going – Carolina is built exactly like the Browns are. They're kind of taking – Baker Mayfield was in a similar situation in Cleveland. So I think they're hoping that they can find the same success with him that the Browns did.
I think he'll have his, you know how like when you had like OBJ and Jarvis Landry, Baker Mayfield would do a fair amount of passes to them, and I guess Njoku apparently is a phenom that no one was tracking. It's hence his salary, but to me it's actually very similar in Carolina, with the exception of they don't have that tight end that really stands out. I think they kind of plug and play a lot for blocking tight ends.
Yeah, but Odell sucked in Cleveland. He's terrible.
Well, that and was always injured. Both two were injured.
I watched that dude drop passes with no coverage. That he whether it was on purpose or not, he played like dog shit in Cleveland. He was not the reason that.
No, he wasn't. But I think the miscommunication in Cleveland was a big, big issue. I don't see how that's improved in Carolina, because they had the same shit happen last year.
Even then, from what I've been told and read, is that there's still a fucking quarterback fight to see who gets top seed. Like,
there should be.
In Carolina, Baker Mayfield starting. Baker Mayfield is far beyond Sam Darnold, and I hate Baker Mayfield. Those dudes
like Sam Darnold. That's the difference.
Robbie Anderson.
He's had a year now.
Like Sam Darnold.
Well, Robbie Anderson's a garbage receiver anyway. He's been playing on the bench all the time.
I don't really care. I mean, from my perspective, Sam Darnold has not played well his entire.
He hasn't. No, I can't. I'm not going to argue that he's played well.
Went to Cleveland, which was one of the bottom. Like Cleveland was like the worst team in the NFL, just after the Jets. And then he, didn't get him the playoffs, but he made that they won games. I think he'll start. I think DJ Moore is going to do a lot better with a quarterback that actually has an arm.
Did anyone debate the order that I put those teams in? I went Bucs, Saints, Carolina, Atlanta.
I would put the Saints as 1, Tampa as 2, just because of the fact that I think Jameis Winston's an amazing quarterback. Once their pieces come back to the team, with
That's what I was
Kamara
getting
being
at, too.
suspended, if that delay is
he's
too
suspended.
much, I think
It still hasn't been official.
Oh, it
I
hasn't
think
been
it's a
put out?
6-week punishment, but it hasn't been announced yet to start.
Right. So if they lose too many games without Kamara, it's going to put them to 2 automatically. Tampa's
But I would say Mike Thomas
wins.
and your first round rookie receiver. I think you add weapons on the offense that actually, like, don't get me wrong, I love Kamara. I will always have his jerseys, but it's not the Drew Brees Kamara era anymore. And what I mean by that is, like, they have elite receivers out there now. Like, all season they had to do, like, plug and play free agency guys who didn't do terrible, but I would never have played one, right? Especially when Winston was gone. I may have played Taysom Hill just for the rushing points, and in fact, that's normally what I did it for, right? But I think that they have a receiving core at least on par now with Tampa, with Mike Thomas. I don't know, maybe a Godwin or an Evans comparison.
Again,
and Olave.
I've been hurt before.
For who? Oh, Mike Thomas. Yes, no, I know that.
But he's had a lot of time to heal. Like they gave him ample time for his recovery.
Yeah, that's a weird situation that we'll probably get more guidance as we go. But that's why I have that order that way. But I do want to hit on the NFC West before. I know we got about 10, 12 minutes left. So I want to hit on the NFC West, and kind of like last week, we'll do a little bit of a lightning round. Where each of us will give our take and then like our order, and then we'll pick a little bit until we kind of run out of time. So go ahead, Ray, and start us off.
All right. Yeah, we ran a little bit long. There's so much shit talking to be done in this division. All right. So just to throw right out the gate, obviously Rams for number 1. My pick for number 2 is probably going to be – that's tough. That's tough to say. I would say probably still Arizona, assuming Kyler Murray gets his headspace fixed. I don't know what was going on with him last season, but
they were playing him injured.
Yeah, I guess.
Is that straightforward to me?
That's not why he was nuking it, on 3rd and 2. But
no, that's not either.
And there's a lot of that.
This division's fine, I guess. I mean, the 49ers could be an incredibly dangerous team if they clean up the sloppiness a little bit. They got into the championship off of ugly football.
Yes.
Right. So if that stops being a thing and their plays actually, tighten up a little bit, they could be a lot better. Deebo Samuels is a terrifying player.
Excellent.
And I don't think Drew Lock's going to do any good in Seattle. So I think they're going to be right at the bottom where they've been. I don't think DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett are that good. I don't buy the hype.
That's fair.
I certainly buy it less now.
They're not going to. Yeah, their receiving ability isn't going to fix Drew Lock. They're going to be high scoring, so you might be able to play DK Metcalf and Rashad Penny, hoping that Chris Carson retires so he doesn't fucking literally die on the field after his neck snaps.
God, that one fucked me hard last year. Oof.
Don't pick up Chris Carson. He should not be drafted.
Oh no,
Brian, what you got? You got any contradictory
honestly,
stuff?
I'm pretty similar. I don't think the Rams are going to be as high powered as they were this year. Well, last season, I should say. But I would say San Francisco, like how Ray was saying, I think once they clean up and come together a little bit more, I'm gonna put them at number 2 because I feel like they can clean themselves up a bit.
Yeah,
Arizona again. They're playing hurt. They're not really kind of firing on all cylinders. Yeah.
Right. They had the weapons last year.
Yeah, they did.
On paper, they were a dangerous team. I said that at the start of the season. Sure. I was like, this team is going to be insane. And then at the end of the season, they fell apart. I don't think that's any less possible this season.
I do believe James Conner's still with them.
Yep.
So
I don't have
he's the only
Edmonds,
one there
though.
now.
Yeah,
Edmonds is gone.
Okay,
yeah.
so
that should be interesting.
I still put him at 3 just because I think there's a lot more issues going on.
Yeah.
In Seattle,
Sure.
Russell Wilson's out the door. I don't think the receiving core is going to be able to keep up just because who's going to get him that ball way down the field or even accurately. I don't know many people on Seattle's defense anymore.
With that, I mean, we all kind of think that Russell's is better, but we might think he's better than he is. There's a lot of people that think that his stats were a little bit deceiving. Because he's perceived to be better than he is. Which, if that's true, then him and Drew Lock are just going to replace each other. It's not going to make a difference.
For sure, because I remember, especially at like the beginning of the season, at some point, like that first like 5 games, they're like, "Oh, Russ is cooking," or whatever the hell they were saying.
I never had any concerns about Seattle.
And then after that, it's just in the dirt.
Yeah.
So for me, I think Allen Robinson is a better receiver than Robert Woods was. I think the Rams probably go from 12 wins to 14 wins. I think they improve.
Okay.
I think here's the deal. For me, when you say Trey Lance is going to be my guy, the 49ers are trying to look like Arizona because that's the kind of offense the guy's going to play. It's a running, shoot and gun kind of thing. But the Arizona Cardinals have already established that that's how they play football. Mm-hmm. There's no learning curve anymore for them. So I still keep Arizona above the 49ers. And now I can't believe I'm advocating for this, but I'm going to. I think Hollywood Brown in Arizona improves that team because they just didn't have super speedy targets other than what's the rookie that I like there a lot?
Rondale Moore.
Rondale Moore. Fantastic guy. I think he's going to do even better this year. To me, Hollywood takes attention off Rondale at the least. And at best, they just like, hey, well, he can't catch the ball anyway, so throw one-on-ones. And 50% of the time, you might get a touchdown.
Someone's going to come down with that for sure.
Yeah. And so I'll go Rams, Cardinals, Niners, Seahawks. I will glean some positivity from Seattle. And one of the things I do like is I do like a fully healthy Noah Fant with a quarterback he's played with before. I do like that Noah Fant is in Seattle, and I do like that that's his safety valve. I think Noah Fant looks fantastic this year, offseason, really in shape, had a long time to heal from those injuries or things have been banging him up. I think if you get him away from a rush-first offense, which is what Denver was, people don't realize that, but they ran the ball a lot, that he doesn't get as banged up during that, and he plays more like Travis Kelce or Kyle Pitts or something, that Noah Fant can be superstar tight end level. I do think he can. Me and Ray have talked about Noah Fant a lot, especially last year. Everything says he should be a top 3 receiver every weekend, or tight end, excuse me. But the issue just is like the guy getting him the ball isn't consistent, or the offense is completely just bogged down by whatever defense they're playing. It's always something that kept Noah Fant from putting up 40 points every weekend.
But he was not bad. I started him.
He was not bad.
He was top 10 for a while at the start of the season. Like he was the 9th overall.
You could certainly play him. You could certainly play him. I think he becomes even more playable now because I don't think Seattle's used to playing with a tight end that's actually really fucking good. I think they're used to big time blockers and doing a little bit of like weird offenses where the third string tight end gets a touchdown every now and then. To me, that's Seattle's whole MO. Oh, we got Lockett covered and we got DK covered, and of course Chris Carson's been broken since week 5, so I guess I'll throw it to this fucking nerd right here. And they get the touchdown. You know what I mean? I'm hoping that they get far, far, far away from that offense style. Sure. And I'm hoping that getting rid of Russell forces them to grow. With that being said, I know right now the lead team for Jimmy G is Seattle. I would like Jimmy G more than I would like Drew Lock. I don't think that wins you a championship per se, but I would think that even like if it's Jimmy G, because of the way he uses Kittle, Noah Fant to me becomes like a top 3 drafty, first, second round. You got to go get him. Sure. Well, if you have that much faith in tight ends, excuse me, because I know I don't. But some dudes draft Kelce in the top. Andrews, second round. Dudes like that. So I think the order stays the same that the way the NFL.com thing has it. There are positives throughout that whole division that I think can really change the outcome of a fantasy football league. I just need to see it to believe it. I think Zach Ertz entering his second full season now with Arizona really opens up that receiving core even more, because it was really just DeAndre Hopkins and Rondale Moore streaming down the field. If he could beat his guy, it's a touchdown. But if he can't, it was Kirk. Kirk was in there too. That's right.
And AJ Green, who's still there.
AJ Green came back, but Kirk is now.
That's the dinosaur you're talking about.
Miami. That's right. And so Kirk is out too.
Is that right? Wait, Chase Edmonds went to Miami. Where did
Chase Edmonds went to Miami
go?
Fuck, I can't remember.
I don't remember.
It was a good team for him. I remember that.
I don't remember.
That wasn't Buffalo, was it?
Darrell Williams is in Arizona now, though. He's not in Kansas City.
Damian Williams?
No.
I got Darrell Williams over here.
Darrell
Williams.
Yeah.
Is that the running back that backed up Clyde Edwards-Helaire?
Yes. So I talked about him during, I think, our Flex episode being a guy who kind of went unnoticed in Kansas
Yes.
City because of how Kansas City is, and they only give a shit about Tyreek and Kelsey. Yeah, like pretty consistent running back who, okay, Chase Edmonds is gone. I think Darrell Williams can fill that role of rushing 7 yards, every rush, and then James Conner can go on pretending he's the best running back in the league with his fucking 2-yard touchdowns. So they really didn't lose anything in the rushing.
No, but to me, so you know who else took a page out of that was the Niners. They reduced the running back room by 2 running backs. They send Mostert off to Miami, and then Wilson is no longer there with them. So you've shrunk the competition in the room in a good way. To me, I love that man. Oh my gosh, I was just about to talk to him, motherfucker. Elijah Mitchell now becomes a super competitive running back because the room is smaller now. So like before they had 5 running backs, all of which could go out there and play, but now it's like 2 or 3, right? And so their offense will evolve with Trey Lance. I think it'll shift away from option running back stuff, which is fucking stupid anyway. That's why you have a million injuries every season, every year. Mm-hmm. Pittsburgh knew this when they were doing power rushing. Every fucking year they would lose like 8 linemen, right?
Easily.
We don't play that way anymore, man. Like it's not sustainable. Ask Baltimore.
Hitting too hard.
Yeah. So, all right, we're kind of out of time. We'll be able to bring up a little bit more when we come in on next week. Next week, I'm trying to do a thing where we actually provide the service that podcast talkers talk about, and that is our gems that we're hoping no one notices that we're going to draft. And that's going to be my goal, where we give you the ones where like we're going to give some of our secrets up to hope some people can benefit from it. And guys who are really like, ooh, he could escape a draft easily, but I want him for sure. So I'm going to call it the Gems episode. We'll see how it goes. Okay.
I can buy into
Anybody
that
got anything else?
No, I'm pretty satisfied. Pretty solid.
No, I think we're good. Yeah.
Okay. All right, guys. Well, y'all join us next week. Thank you so much.
Yep. Bye.